So I'm excited to talk to you guys today about TWAP oracles and how the upcoming proof of stake merge changes the security considerations for them a little bit. Just a quick obligatory personal slide. I'm a Solidity engineer, been doing it since 2017. Currently work at Uniswap Labs on the protocol team. In the past, I've done all kinds of stuff, worked on fixed rate crypto bonds and NFT lending and WBTC at BitGo back in the day. Okay, so I'll start just by talking about TWAP oracles now in the current proof of work blockchain and some manipulations that can be done with them. So I'm sure most of you guys already know TWAP oracles are a safe and decentralized on-chain price feed. But why do we need them in the first place? Well, the obvious thing you might do if you're trying to get an on-chain price is just use the spot price on the AMM. But with things like flash loans, this is quite easy to attack, right? Because the spot price of the AMM changes instantly and dynamically. So you can take out a big flash loan, move the price, and then use that manipulated price for some kind of attack, swap back and pay back your loan all in one transaction. So TWAPs were a way to basically get around this problem. What you do is you take some window of time and average the price across that entire window. And this sort of automatically solves that problem, especially because, at least with the Uniswap v2 and v3 TWAPs, the price is snapshotted at the start of the block, and only at the start of the block. So any transactions during the block that move the price don't actually move the TWAP price until the following block when the next snapshot is taken. So these are still possible to manipulate, but it increases the cost quite significantly, which I'll explain in a slide in a couple seconds here. And importantly, it requires multiple blocks, so the attacker takes on some risk of getting arbitraged or competing with MEV searchers and so on. So just to walk through sort of the anatomy of a typical TWAP manipulation, it comes in 3 stages. So the first stage, the attacker has to manipulate the price, right? Takes some big amount of tokens, swap it into the pool, which moves the price. Then they have to wait a block again for the TWAP to update, and then they use that manipulated price for something. And finally, and I think this stage often gets sort of overlooked, they have to demanipulate the price to recoup their costs. And this is because when they do the manipulation, sort of by definition, when they move the price, they're incurring a lot of slippage, right? And so they're getting less value out than they put in. So this demanipulation phase allows them to sort of make that loss back. And just some example things that you might do if you were able to manipulate a TWAP. For example, if there's some lending protocol that uses the AMM TWAP as its sort of price feed, and you're able to manipulate the price beyond the LTV of that lending protocol, you could take out an under-collateralized loan. You put in some amount of collateral, you make it look like the value of that collateral is way more than it is, and then you can borrow more than you put in, effectively. Another thing you might be able to do is liquidate someone else's healthy vault, make it look like it's under-collateralized when it's actually fine, and you can take their collateral for less value than it's worth again. So it's really hard to actually execute on these, at least with the way TWAPs are constructed currently in proof of work. So I use this really nice tool from Euler Finance, which is a lending protocol that uses Uniswap v3 TWAPs for their price feed. $23.7 trillion is the eye-popping number here for how much capital you would need to swap into the pool, an ETHUSDC Uniswap v3 pool, to move it 30%. And 30% sounds like a lot, but it's pretty reasonable given like the LTV you need for a lot of lending protocols. You need to, again, move the price more than the LTV to actually gain any value from this. So this is with a 30-minute TWAP, which I think is a pretty standard configuration. And to add insult to injury for the attacker here, not only do they need this ridiculous amount of money, which is more than all the value in crypto right now, they also have to then wait a block and execute their manipulation and also do that demanipulation phase to recoup their costs. And in that second block, they're going to be competing with MEV searchers and arbitragers again to actually get that. So they have a pretty decent chance of spending all this upfront capital and then not actually making anything from it. So pretty risky endeavor right now, at least. There's some ways that you can get it to work, a lot of like a selfish miner. If you're a miner and able to mine 2 blocks in a row and execute them, you can maybe like censor out all of the potential competitors, but really hard. It doesn't happen very much in practice. So what changes with the merge? What am I here talking to you guys about today? Well, predictability. So this right here is a screenshot from Beacon Chain, which is a block explorer for the Ethereum upgraded chain, and you can see this scheduled thing. So you actually get to see an epoch ahead of time which producers are creating which blocks. And this is kind of interesting. In proof of work, it's sort of random impulses at the time. You don't know who's producing the next block in proof of work until they've mined it, right? So this is a little bit of a different way to think about things. And specifically, like, what can you do with this new predictability, this new knowledge? Well, it makes these multi-block manipulations quite a bit easier. So the first kind of most obvious thing you can do is, if you're a big validator, every once in a while you're going to get 2 blocks in a row, and you'll know ahead of time that you have 2 blocks in a row. So you can perform your manipulation in the first block, and then in the second block you can do your attack and do your demanipulation and censor out any other competitors. Should be pretty rare for an average solo staker like you or me to get 2 blocks in a row, but bigger stakers or mining pool or staking pools may have that happen more often. If you don't have 2 in a row, but you're a validator and you get a block, since you know ahead of time, in the block before yours, you can use Flashbots or some other private mempool service to perform the manipulation. And then in your block, again, you censor out any competitors and you do your attack and your demanipulation. There's a few complexities here where, in that block before yours, since you're not the one building it, there's potential for competitors, but, you can do something like buy out the entire block, or somehow work with Flashbots to make sure your transaction's at the end of the block so it can't be arbitraged away. Also, this third thing I haven't seen talked about much, but I don't see any reason that a large staking pool wouldn't be able to offer like multi-block Flashbot style bundles where you give a bunch of transactions, some execute in the first block, some execute in the second one, and they only get their bribe or whatever if all of them executed the way you wanted them to. And so again, this takes away a lot of the risk from these manipulation attacks if you're able to get it to work. But it's still really hard with the TWAPs we have right now. So I just ran those same kinds of simulations under this new proof of stake model. And if you have 2 blocks in a row, the upfront cost is the same. It's still the ridiculous $23 trillion number. The difference here is that if you have the second block, which is controlled by you, you get risk-free demanipulation, again, because you can censor out any competitors. Now, it will be increasingly more rare and more costly to get more than 2 blocks in a row. But if you did somehow have 3 blocks in a row, the cost of this attack goes down because it's an average price over a bunch of blocks. If you're able to manipulate the price and hold it there for 2 blocks, then that moves the total average more than just having it there for 1 block, right? So with 3 blocks in a row, it would be $9.5 billion, and with 5 blocks in a row, $100 million. So still quite a lot, but a little bit more reasonable. So hopefully this sort of shows that it's still really hard to execute these TWAPs, but it definitely is a little bit worse than in the current proof of work model. So how can we improve this? Well, luckily we have a pretty good way. I don't know if I can scroll over a little bit. So medians. Basically, the problem with means is that any outliers or any crazy values that get into the window, they affect the average, right? Medians have this sort of nice feature where they automatically filter out outliers. So what you do for a median TWAP is you take sort of a window of prices again, you sort it by price, so the low prices at the start and the high prices at the end, and you find the middle. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, sorry, guys. So yeah, it automatically filters out the outliers. And now, in order to manipulate the price at all of the TWAP, you need to manipulate it for over half of the blocks in the window, which is pretty ridiculous. So just to go back to that same example with the 30-minute TWAP, you need to manipulate the price for 73 blocks of the 144, which good luck with that. And also this kind of makes it easier, like you can have shorter windows with the median TWAP for the same reason. Like, you might be able to get away with a 50 block TWAP instead of 144 because it's still pretty hard to get 25 blocks out of a window manipulated. Oops. So that was pretty much all I had, guys. Hopefully you found that somewhat interesting. This is kind of an active open area of research right now. There's lots of people working on it. I took a lot of the information in this talk from, conversations I've had at Uniswap, and Doug Hoyt, who's an engineer at Euler, has done some great research as well. He actually implemented a proof of concept of this median TWAP. If you guys can find my slides later, you can go look that up. It's pretty cool. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions. I think I have a little bit of time, right?
We're going to do
Discussion at the end.
Yeah.
Cool.
We'll do a video.
Sounds great. Thanks, guys.